We get it. Distractions happen. That's why we designed the fully electric, full-sized Volvo EX90 with the latest technology to keep you and those around you safe. Its two-sensor driver understanding system is designed to prevent distractions and help you stay focused. Reserve your Volvo EX90 today. Learn more at volvocars.com/US.
So good, so good, so good.
Just in and so good. Thousands of summer deals at your Nordstrom Rack store. Save up to 60% on new arrivals from Vince, Rag & Bone, Adidas, Joe's, Marc Jacobs, and more. Great brands, great prices. Every day at Nordstrom Rack. But hurry for first dibs. Get your new summer favorites up to 60% off at Nordstrom Rack today. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
I'm Dave Baker.
And I'm Spandrew Spice.
Welcome to Deep Cuts, the podcast where we pick a topic and walk you through the ins, the outs, and the nitty-gritty, so you can appear like an interesting and idiosyncratic person at your next forced social function. Today's topic is...
the most mysterious song on the internet.
What is the most mysterious song on the internet? Well, it's a song that a young boy named Darius recorded off the radio in 1984. A German new wave song, to be precise. And no one has been able to figure out who made it, who the artists are behind it, or if they're still alive ever since. The mystery's been going for close to 30 years, and the internet has been completely unable to answer the burning question of who created this song. Act 1. A teenager's cassette tape. Have you ever had that earworm that just won't go away? A dancing melody, a stray, half-remembered lyric? They bounce around your head, refusing to leave you alone. Well, that's something that Darius S. has been dealing with his entire life. He's been obsessed with a single song. A single, solitary song. But here's the catch. He knows every lyric of the song, and every chord change. This isn't his brain refusing to quit humming a melody. This is a song that he has in his possession, but he has no idea who created it. Darius recorded the song from a radio program which aired on a North Germany public radio station. He recorded it on a cassette tape. Soon after the initial recording, he became obsessed with the tune, wanting to know everything about it and the individuals who made it. However, in the process of pirating the song off the radio, he purposefully cut off all of the radio DJ's German voiceover and call sign bumpers. He was eventually able to deduce that the song was played on Nordischer Radfunk, but that's where the trail went cold. It stayed that way for years of Darius's life, with this frustrating itch deep in his brain that nothing would scratch. A frustration that would never subside. All right, Spandrew. So this. I feel like we've been saying this a lot recently. That like, this is a quintessential deep cuts topic. You know, like a weird story that people may have not heard about, and if you haven't heard about it, you're gonna be like, how the fuck have I never heard of this before?
We need a term for it at this point because we've got dark cuts, and everybody knows what that is. You immediately know what to label those episodes. But we say this, as you said, all the time. We always say like, oh, this is one of those types of episodes. So what's the term for a quintessential deep cuts? Like a submerged cuts?
like a this won't make sense to anyone else, but I feel like it should be called like Shafia's dream.
Yeah, nobody's gonna know what the fuck that means. That is so like a 5 layers deep inside baseball joke.
When we were first starting to talk about doing the show many moons ago, you and I were working in an office. Actually, I don't think I was even working in that office yet.
No, yeah. You weren't working there yet. This was before that.
This was before, but it was you, me, and a mutual friend of ours, whose last name is Shafia, and we were all talking about doing something. And then he had the idea, or you had the idea of like doing a deep dive explainer podcast that would be about obscure topics. And yeah, his last name was Shafia. Shout out to Mike Shafia. But like, I feel like this is like the epitome of what he and you and I were talking about in that conversation of like exposing people to topics or subjects or nooks and crannies of existing stories that you wouldn't really be familiar with, you know, that you would kind of be like, no, yeah, I've seen insert movie here. And then our episode would be like, yeah, but did you know that 4 people died making it? Or, you know, whatever, random fucking thing. Oh, yeah, you've seen Primer, but did you know that the guy who made it had 2 crazy, ambitious, unproduced screenplays that we're going to read and talk about, and then also get into the fact that he might as well have burned his career to the ground because he's an alcoholic and was in multiple abusive relationships because he's kind of not a good guy?
Yeah, it's either that, like a crazy detail about a thing that is very well known, or it's a thing that literally nobody knows about that should have a larger cultural impact. Like the fact that there was a reality TV show in the early 2000s where somebody like competed to win a kidney, and that ended up like having this massive effect on the laws about kidney donation in the Netherlands. And you'd think that would be like some common fact that everybody knows about, and yet nobody's heard about it. It's one of those two things. But what we've kind of discovered over time is people tend to, I mean, those people like those episodes, but really like the episodes that people tend to gravitate towards are more just like very well-known things and us just kind of discussing them. So a lot of the episodes aren't that necessarily, because people really like it when we just talk about like Britney Spears' career and how kind of fucked up it was. There's nothing like really particularly surprising about that. There's no hidden information or obscure aspect to that, but people tend to gravitate towards those episodes. But every once in a while we get the quintessential deep cuts. And short of calling it a Shafia's dream, which nobody is gonna understand at all, what do you guys? What do the listeners think? What do you think we should call the quintessential deep cuts episodes?
A quinty. These are quinties.
Quinty. If you could think of anything better than Quinty, shout it out on the Discord or in the Facebook group, or email. Send an email to andrew@boygeniusmedia.com. The abandoned email address of the late Papa Pricey that I use because I haven't figured out how to change it to Spandrew yet. And also I feel like it would be kind of disrespectful.
So let's talk about this subject a little bit. So there's this guy, Darius. He's a kid. He's really into music, like a lot of young people are when they kind of first start developing their own identity. They get really into a specific type of music. And Darius really got into like new wave and German new wave specifically. And so he, spent a ton of time recording stuff off the radio and got really into this radio station that we're going to be talking a lot about over the course of this episode, and specifically recorded this one song that initially didn't seem like that big a deal, right? But he recorded the song, and it kind of initially didn't seem like a big deal, but then as he kept listening to it, he became more and more obsessed with it. I think let's listen to the song right now. Let's listen to the song.
Yeah, we got to start out by just listening to the track.
There are some things that are too good to keep a secret. Like how your Amex Platinum card helps you have the perfect trip. I'd like to check into the Centurion Lounge. Or how it seems like you always get those hard-to-snag tables.
Ooh, yum.
And how you get the most out of select can't-miss events. With access to the Centurion Lounge, Resi Priority Notify, and Amex card member benefits at select events, you'll have to share. That's the powerful backing of American Express. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/withAmex.
So good, so good, so good.
Just in and so good. Thousands of summer deals at your Nordstrom Rack store. Save up to 60% on new arrivals from Vince, Rag & Bone, Adidas, Joe's, Marc Jacobs, and more. Great brands, great prices. Every day at Nordstrom Rack. But hurry for first dibs. Get your new summer favorites up to 60% off at Nordstrom Rack today. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
So that's the song that's at the heart of the mystery that we're going to be talking about. What did you think of that, Spandrew?
Yeah, well, a couple things. I mean, first of all, that they must have done some heavy like remastering, because if that's like just something he recorded off of a radio station, when did he record this?
I'm not going to say anything yet, but you hit on something there. I'm not going to say anything yet though, but keep going.
At any rate, it was very high quality for being something that was recorded off of the radio onto a cassette. So they must have done a lot of remastering to it. But yeah, just the song itself. So it's not a bad song. I liked the song. It was less new wave and more kind of just like early 80s rock, with a little bit more synth than the songs that were emblematic of that time period. A little bit more straightforward and less synth and beat heavy as new wave tended to be. And while I think it's a good song, it's a fine song. But it's not actually that catchy, which is interesting to me that somebody could develop such an obsession about a song that isn't actually that catchy. It's like not really an earworm. I think the one earwormy thing about it is just how deep the singer's voice is and how kind of low he goes with it. So I can see you getting that part where he goes like, la. I could see you getting that stuck in your head just because of the novelty of how deep the voice is and kind of the range it's playing in. But if he was singing a little bit higher, it wouldn't be memorable at all. It's like not that catchy of a song. It's not a bad song, but it's not particularly catchy. A decent song. I'm very interested to learn how somebody can become so obsessed with a song like this.
It's less the actual ones and zeros of the song and more the fact that there is no information that spawns all the obsession, right? Like you and I have both been obsessed about random things that just don't really warrant the attention. Or even just like, we've talked about this on the show before, that I've been looking for this weird, I saw it once on TV when I was a little kid, and it was a Lone Ranger-esque TV show where there's like a small western town, but all of the characters are played by little kids. And the main character is ostensibly the Lone Ranger, and the town sheriff, I think, looks kind of like Abraham Lincoln. That's my memory. And there's like a bad cowboy and then like a love interest character, and there's kind of like a love triangle between the good cowboy who's Lone Ranger and the bad cowboy. Emphasis on boy, because they're all like, everybody's like sub 15 or something. And I've been looking for that for forever just to even see what it was that I watched. But to no avail. Although I think my obsession with that has been much less than this.
Yeah, well, when we discussed that, we sort of both shared our mutual versions of that, and you mentioned that, and I had no idea what it was, and I still have no idea what it is. My version of it, we actually solved there that day on the show, because mine was there was a movie in the 80s about a little kid who gets caught up in this like cyber security themed caper. And I just had a memory of one scene where he's in a parking garage, and then they open up a trunk and there's like a little box and it has like a guy's fingers in it. And then I looked for it forever, and the reason why I wasn't able to find it is because I thought that it was Fred Savage. But the thing is I was pretty sure I was mixing this movie up with Trading Places, or no, it's not Trading Places. The movie with Judge Reinhold and Fred Savage where they switch bodies. I forget what that movie's called. Trading Places is the movie with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd. I forget the name of that movie, but I was mixing it up with that because they kind of have similar vibes and they kind of came out at the same time. And then you basically were able to deduce that I was talking about a movie that had the little kid from E.T. in it. And then we figured out what the movie was and we looked it up, and it was exactly what I was talking about. So my mystery has been solved.
Yeah. Cloak and Dagger.
Yeah. But yours is still outstanding. And you might go be much like Darius, you might go to the grave never knowing. I mean, he's not dead, but I mean, it's seeming like he's going to go to the grave without knowing.
And so it was in 2004 that Darius's older sister, Lydia, took pity on him. She decided that she would help. To try and get him to stop complaining about the song, she bought him a website domain for his birthday. Darius built a website and uploaded everything he had come to know about the song. Named Unknown Pleasures after the Joy Division album, this was his existential howl into the universe, his call for help, his digital message in a bottle. Yet, nothing came back. No one knew anything about the song Another dead end.
That's when you know you're fucked. Like whenever you put a question out into the internet and people were just like, I got no idea. You're just fucked. Because like that's the whole thing about the internet. The whole thing about the internet is like, no matter how obscure you think something is, people will solve it in like 4 seconds on Reddit.
3 years later, on March 18th, 2007, Leah took another step. She started using Usenet to find the answer, but to no avail. She posted a 1 minute and 15-second excerpt of the song on bestoftheeighties.de, a German forum for synth pop. Next, she went to What's That Song in 2009, and then eventually took to YouTube in 2011. Spanish indie record label Dead Wax posted about the song on their YouTube in 2017, still yielding no answers. Dead Wax's Gabriel Penelson became obsessed with the song too. He started posting about it on Reddit and eventually founded the R the Mysterious Song subreddit. On July 12th, a Reddit user named Johnny Me Too posted the complete version of the song, which he had obtained from a link on one of Lydia's old Usenet posts before everything was deleted. In 2019, the search for the creator of the mysterious song took a massive turn. Thanks to R the Mysterious Song's existence, fans and devotees of the song grouped together, and the story spawned new devotees by the hour. It went completely viral.
You know, on one hand, my sort of like reactionary brain is just boggled by the idea that they could, like, because it makes a little bit more sense in the early 2000s, right? Where like the internet is still developing. It's not as connected. It's a little bit more Web 1.0. It's transitioning into Web 2.0. I mean, MySpace existed and we were getting into the social media age, but it was still relatively kind of insular. You were like going to destinations to look at forums and still like living on websites. And it was less of this like, oh, you put something out there and then it just gets blasted out to everybody algorithmically. It made a little bit more sense. But when you're getting up into, you know, we're in 2019 and there's a subreddit, it's getting posted on social media. My reactionary brain is like, can't understand how this could be possibly true. Like, you're telling me that there's a song that some human beings created and it's put out onto the modern day internet and social media, and you're telling me that nobody stepped forward and claimed the song? Like, how is that possible that anybody involved in the production of the song, even if like all of the artists are dead, nobody involved in the production of the song at some point saw this thing stumble across their path on the internet? But I will say though, just from my experience with researching and writing the Great Donor Show episode about the game show in the Netherlands where they competed for a kidney. There's like some hard delineation between like the American internet and the European internet. Like less so, I think we intermingle with like the UK and like basically any English speaking country. Our information is pretty well integrated. But there's a lot of, I can't speak for Germany necessarily, but at least in the Netherlands, there's a ton of information about stuff in the Netherlands, celebrities, TV shows, that has just never been translated to English. And there's no version of it that exists that a person who doesn't speak Dutch could read. So actually, I just with my experience of that, it makes sense that there's, you know, an English speaking person that's trying to find this out and they're just not making it into the sphere of these German speaking people that were involved in making this song. And it actually kind of makes sense to me after writing that episode.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is like music is such a strange ephemeral thing because the history of labels and the history of collecting records and CDs, like, yes, there is a large component of the industry that is that, but also music is an art form or a medium that has so many hobbyist musicians who never quote unquote go pro. You know, like think about every time you go to some little dive bar or coffee shop and there's always, you know, some singer-songwriter or shitty punk band or whatever, and like most of those people never are able to manifest a real career where their work gets solidified and put out on a broad basis. Whereas this situation is it a pro musician? I don't know. They got put on the radio, but also maybe it's not. Maybe it's some amateurs. I don't know.
Yeah, especially back, this is less the case now because anybody can just make music in their bedroom. So the music, unless you're really good at producing, like, the quality of self-produced music is much higher than it ever has been because of all the tools and people sort of teaching themselves production. But even with the bar of quality being significantly higher for home-produced music or self-produced music, you can still ultimately tell the difference between professionally produced music and home-produced music because self-produced music it doesn't have the professional mastering that professionally produced for the radio music does now. So you can always tell. There's always just that little step up of difference. But back in the day, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, if you had the money, you could just pay somebody and go into a studio, and studios offered that, where they basically were just like, they just let people record their own albums for a price. So you could have an album, if you had enough money, you could produce an album that sounded like a radio band, but it's just you.
Because the conversation that we're having almost is kind of like 50% one argument, 50% the other. Because like if it is an amateur band, or an amateur artist or musician, that means they've had a lot of money, and that means they had to be on the verge of pro. Like they weren't just randos, you know what I mean? So it had to be somebody in that organism that took it seriously, but maybe didn't go pro, or it's an actual touring band and they do have some sort of legacy. And this is a perfect example of like, they had to go record it in a studio. So either way, you kind of are knocking out a certain percentage of people that it could be by the time span that it is and the level of quality that it is.
All that equates to, we have no fucking idea who these people are.
Yeah, for real. Now, with an army of digital detectives on the case, things began to ramp up, but yet still no definitive answers. People made contact with Paul Baskerville, a disc jockey who formerly was involved in a German performance organization who ran the 80s Forever YouTube channel, which posts obscure music. Baskerville also was employed at one of the radio stations that everyone thought played the song. Baskerville agreed to play the song on his at the time current radio show, Nacht Club. It aired July 21st, 2019. Maybe someone out there listening knows who created the song, where it comes from, what the group that produced it was named, something. Yet tragically, that was not to be the case. It failed to spawn any significant development or leads. However, it did have one positive side effect. Darius and Lydia learned about the massive wave of new attention focused on solving their mystery. In July of 2020, the Reddit user named Flaxen Mobile posted on Reddit showcasing a list of every song Baskerville had played on his Music for Jungen Leuten in 1984. Redditors concluded that the song was not on the playlist and therefore ruled out Baskerville having been involved in the original airing. So this is one of the things, like a bunch of people have been pestering this radio station, trying to get them to give users on this subreddit definitive track listings of what was played in these given months in 1984 to try and get it revealed, to try and help clarify, like, could it have been here? People would go through the song listings and see if maybe there was one they didn't recognize that could be the mysterious song. And people had written to this radio station multiple times, and every time the radio station is like, we don't have that information. That was fucking 40 years ago. Like, fuck off. So this guy, Flaxen Mobile, wrote to the radio station, and they actually supplied him with it, finally. This is the letter that he wrote to the radio station.
Hello, my name is Redacted, and I am an independent researcher working collaboratively with other researchers to find a particular song that was played on one of the NDR radio stations between 1982 and 1984. You may have been contacted previously or be familiar with the search. The song has been dubbed, quote, the most mysterious song on the internet, and has been featured in several mainstream American, German, and Australian publications. To provide some small background on the song, a teenage Wilhelmshaven boy enjoyed creating mixtapes of songs he recorded from the radio onto cassette tapes. He typically would record the artist and the song name, but there were several songs for which no information was recorded. In 2004, he digitized his mixtapes and begins trying to locate information on the songs that he had not identified. His sister decided to assist in this search and began posting on online forums in 2007. The search for the song has been ongoing ever since. The man who originally recorded the tape is very certain that he recorded it from an afternoon radio program named Music for Jungle Lute on one of the NDR radio stations. I was curious if you all have tapes of this show that aired between 1982 and 1984, and if so, what is the process for obtaining copies of the tapes? Thank you in advance for your assistance. Respectfully, redacted.
It's he's asking nicely. He's like, hey dudes, just trying to fucking figure this out. And shock of all shocks, the radio station had found 12 tapes from that time period specifically, and so they sent him all these track listings, and they were like, "Yeah, you do these? You want these?" And he was like,
"Is this what you're looking for?
Is this what you are looking for?" And he was like, "Yeah, thanks, broski." Let's watch this little video really quick. I believe this is the one of our boy Baskerville, Paul Baskerville, just to get a sense of the guy.
Ihren Ursprung hat die Geschichte 1902.
So this is a video from November 11th of 2020, which is like a German public radio or public news report, basically covering everything that we've already talked about.
Ein eingängiger Sound, der ein Hit sein könnte von einer womöglich sogar bekannten Band.
And you're not going to be able to understand most of it.
Fast 40 Jahre später
but mostly I just kind of want to get Spandrew's reaction to seeing some of the technology, seeing the place. This is an NDR archivist named Sonketuru.
Das ist noch nie passiert. Ich glaube, es geht einfach darum, dass man das gar nicht.
Just a matter of the fact that you can't bear it all, so today's thought is that you can't identify a song. Shazam has somehow failed, so to speak, and people think that's somehow strange. It's a strange idea of today's times, but can it really be that absolutely no one in the world? Can it really be that absolutely no one in the world scans a potentially promising band despite such a catchy title?
In January of 2021, the complete playlist for Der Club and Nachtclub were published to Reddit for October and November of 1984. Several of the songs that Darius had taped on his mixtapes were on these lists. Users began to speculate that if the other playlists for these shows could be discovered for the following months, that the song's title would have to be present. Towards the end of 2020, a Discord user named Fliere analyzed the tape recording of the sound and found a 10 kilohertz line, which was also present at the other BAS F14 songs and the BAS M42 songs. This line was discovered to be present in virtually all NDR radio broadcasts at that time, not on any of the Hilversum radio broadcasts. Therefore, the internet sleuths got one step closer. This development meant that the song had to have been played on NDR. It could not have been on any other radio station that was active at the time. So basically, just to reiterate that for the audience, somebody involved in this on a Reddit or a Discord server was like, let's analyze the actual soundscapes and see if there's anything we can learn from them. He looked at other songs that were aired on the radio station NDR that Darius had recorded and found this 10 kilohertz audio profile in it, and that just completely closed off all other possible avenues. Like, it's now that it has to have come from the radio station NDR.
It's still just, it's so crazy that at this point in this, it still hasn't been figured out. Like, I know I was saying that stuff about like the translation, the language barrier, and I think that is valid, but it's crazy to me that this has been going on for this long, and just nobody has been like, oh yeah, I was like the engineer on that recording. It was the Wiener Schnitzel brothers with
Das Wiener Club.
Wouldn't it be funny if like this has just never been solved and nobody knows what the song is, and then we put this episode up on YouTube, and then it's just like, the Wiener Schnitzel brothers have claimed your video for copyright on the song, and then it just and then we just solve it because we get DMCA stricken from this episode, and it demonetizes our channel, but we're just like, we fucking figured it out.
Yeah. Somebody give us credit for this, bitch.
It's Pretzel Bun by the Wiener Schnitzel Brothers.
In November of 2021, Lydia posted to Reddit informing everyone that one of her sons had discovered a box of cassette tapes that had featured new and better recordings of the songs, but still no details came to light.
Wait. So
the recording that we were hearing earlier, the 2 minute and 15 second version, or 2 minute and 30 second version that you were like, this sounds so good. That's from this recording. That's from the second round of discoveries. Because initially they only had like 1 minute and 15 seconds of it for like a long time. And then they ended up finding a full version of it, but the full version was shitty. And then they found a new full version of it, which was a few years ago.
Okay. That rings to me as odd, though. It's like, we found this better recording of this. Like why wasn't it that before?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's the twist. Maybe there is no German band and this is just Darius and it's a years-long prank.
Well, I mean, that's kind of in the back of my mind. I'm like set up for, are you punking me right now? Are you pulling a great donor show on me where this is going to be like a fucking kayfabe thing? And also I've been wanting to bring this up, but there's a similar story to this, where it's like the details of it are identical, where somebody had this recording of this song from the 80s, and it was kind of like a new wavy type song, and they couldn't figure out what it was, and then people kind of rallied around it and wanted to figure it out, and there was a subreddit for it. And then they ended up figuring out that it was a song from a porno. They ended up tracking down the artist, and it was just, he was like a composer for porno, and he like made this little song that was like a new wave style pop song.
Coming to Deep Cuts next week. That, my friend, is not a Deep Cuts episode. That deep fucks.
I mean, deep. Yeah, it's either deep fucks or deep throats. It could have gone either way.
Deep fucks is way better though, because it rhymes.
Well, it rhymes, but Deep Throats has the cultural reference.
Well, if it's Deep Throats, then you can only make 3 topics. It's either songs that were featured in pornos, the deputy director of the FBI who was confirmed to be Deep Throat and was responsible for the Watergate hearings, and the character from seasons 1 and 2 of the X-Files who also went by the name Deep Throat.
So we do that trilogy of episodes. It's called Deep. They're all called Deep Throats. And then we do every other episode is a Deep Fucks.
So what do we know for sure? Out of everything we've just heard, what are the possibilities in connection with the story? Many believe that the song was recorded in 1984 due to the other songs present on the mixtape being released at that time. Many believe that the singer is European due to his accent. And many also believe that the song features a Yamaha DX7 synthesizer, which was released in 1983, therefore canceling out any possibility that the song could be released in 1982. As for the true nature of the tape's creator, it was solved! It was solved! Finally, in 2021.
What?
An article from March of 2021 claimed that the song was probably written and performed by Viennese singer Christian Brandl and drummer Ronnie Urini in 1983. The song would have been recorded in the studio of the late Fred Yangschi in Vienna. Saxophonist Heinz Hochreiner claims to have been present and was going to play saxophone on the song, but then ultimately they decided to not do that.
Wait, so the one guy who finally came forward and solved all the mystery and made all the connections was the one guy where they were like, I'm sorry, Heinz, but we're not going to need the saxophone. You can pack up your tenor sax and go home. Get the fuck out of here.
And his key piece of witness, his key piece of evidence supporting his witness is that he has a typed out lyric sheet from that recording day still. And here are some photos of it. You want to describe these?
Which, like, I don't know about this, Dave. Like, that seems kind of too good to be true. He's like, listen, I know the song. Not only was I there, but I have the lyrics typed on a piece of paper. I don't know if that seems kind of shady to me.
It's pretty low res.
Yeah, you can't read the lyrics. I mean, I'm sure there's a better quality version of it, but
click on the website. Maybe the website link. It's the same link that has the.
Yeah, I mean, even these are low. Like the close up of it is low res. Yeah, it's like an old looking piece of paper. Worn by age, brown and kind of crinkled on the outside. It's just got some simple lines typed up on it. Looks like with a typewriter. It's got like a cover to it that it's got a bat. It's a picture of a bat, and it says Ronnie Urini and Die Leleton Relin, Psychopunk, Ostem Wiener Underground. So there's a cover that has a picture of a bat with that text. And then, the paper just has like the lyrics, and it's like, Wieder Wind something, Connat du su sir.
So basically, this guy comes forward. He says, I've got the fucking lyrics sheet. They had a rough mix of the song, and they sent it to NDR in 1984 as a demo. And ultimately, it got played once. They never signed a record deal for it. As you might have guessed, the mystery is finally solved. There was an answer, and it was about as satisfying as answers typically are. But it also doesn't quite sit correctly, does it?
No, I said that already.
You did say that.
It seems too convenient that he just has a typed paper of the lyrics.
Robert Wolf, Christian Brandel's musical colleague and frontman for the band Choops, basically took to the internet saying that he didn't think that the person singing in the song was Christian Brandel. And he thought that the voice sounded completely wrong, and that the drum tracks on the song sound like a drum machine, not like what Urini was known to play drums like. He was also friends with Urini. So I guess this begs the question of why don't they ask Christian Brandel? Because he died in January of 1987. He committed suicide.
Holy shit, a couple years after this.
We've got these two kind of conflicting narrators, right? You've got a guy who says, I was there, I was there, this is the song, here's a fucking lyrics sheet. And then you've got a guy being like, I knew everybody in this clique, he wasn't there, that guy's a liar, and I don't think it was my friends who made this song, it doesn't sound right.
All saxophonists are liars, we all know that.
But here's the thing, right? So part of me, it's interesting because the answer is so cut and dry. That's, I think, why people are a little, like you, reticent to believe it. But then there's another part of it that is, there's a large internet community invested in the hunt, not a solution. Part of me, like, if you go to these Reddit threads, there's all these people calling this guy a liar. And it's like, do they really know that this guy's a liar, or are they just invested in this fucking chase and they really need this thing to keep going because it's a fun pastime for all of them? And having an answer means you have to stop.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely two things can be true at the same time. And whether or not this is true or not, like, let's say hypothetically that it is true, and this guy is the saxophonist Hines is telling the truth, or let's say hypothetically it's not true, and the guy Hines is either lying or mistaken. Either way, 100% these people don't want to believe it because it's like their life, like they're full QAnon.
Yeah. But in like a harmless, charming, meaningless way.
In a way that is not, has no negative effects on the world whatsoever. It's just like some delightful people trying to internet sleuth the meaning or the original creators of a song. But that actually, that pokes at a very specifically relevant and interesting aspect of this, which is true for all of these things, is these sort of like internet sleuth people, these people that like get into trying to solve cold cases and stuff like QAnon. Something like this sort of gets at the underlying problem with those types of communities, which is that, like you just said, it's not about actually solving the thing. And it's not even about like sleuth. It's not even just about the genre of people trying to solve a mystery on the internet. It's literally like every community on the internet. At the end of the day, it might start out that way, but eventually it no longer becomes about solving the problem, figuring out the answer, helping the people. It just becomes about the fandom of being part of that thing and the clout and making videos that get views and the endorphin rush from posting a theory and people actually agreeing with you. It becomes about that eventually. And eventually, and sooner or later, it's not about the thing anymore, which is, in this case, is maybe not a big deal. But in other situations, it's like, oh, well, you guys aren't actually trying to help anybody. You're just like, you just love doing this.
Yeah, I mean, and you can, there are worse ways to spend your time. The problem is that this type of culture promotes a strange like homeostasis where everyone's trying to do a thing but also subconsciously doesn't want the thing to end, which is a really weird binary,
Yeah, it's kind of like how on every one of these episodes I'm trying to seduce you, but ultimately, like I recognize, because I've watched every TV show with a will they won't they thing, and I know from experience, I know for a fact, it's just an intuitive fact that once those people get together, you stop caring. So I know it can't happen. So I'm always in this push-pull of trying to do it, but knowing that I have to stop just short of doing it.
Because you're trying to do it to make the show more interesting, or because you can't do it because of your commitments to your wife and your children?
Oh, fuck that. I know, because it would make the show boring if it happened.
That's true. Deep Cuts is more important than your children.
I mean, yeah.
And so the investigation kept going. Paul Baskerville has gone on the record saying that he thinks the conclusion to this story is something that's actually slightly more likely, but infinitely more vexing. He thinks that the song was a demo, which was played only once by an NDR presenter and then thrown away. And so there never really will be a way of answering this question because the person doing it was ostensibly an amateur musician.
Which is still crazy that like, and you kind of get a look into how that could happen with the other guy, Brandel. Was that his name? Yeah, Brandel. Even if it wasn't actually him, like he died like a couple years later, so he's not around. But it's still, even if it was just a demo from a random band and they threw it away and there's like literally no other copy of it in existence, like there was at minimum, there was the singer, and let's hypothetically say that person did everything. They wrote it, they recorded it, they did the instruments, they did the guitar, they did the drums. Let's say that one person, they just went full fucking ghost on it. There was still an engineer that recorded the track. There was still at least there was a mixer. There was somebody in the studio who was there and heard the song. Aside from that, there's at minimum 4 people that heard this song, and it's just so crazy that nobody was ever like, oh yeah, I like mixed that. That's nuts.
It is nuts, but you know what? Deep Cushian scholars, junior sleuths, it's now up to you. Please, if you know who made this song, post on the internet who made the song, because I don't fucking know.
Yeah, well, once again, maybe we'll figure it out when we upload this to YouTube and we get demonetized and the guy who recorded it comes after us. Kind of like how we got a copyright strike on our page for featuring that song about Las Rojas by the band that sent it to us to play on this episode and asked us to play it. But then when we put it on the episode, it got a copyright strike. And then I reached out to them and was like, hey, your song got us a copyright strike. Can you like tell somebody to take this off? And then they were like, oh, we don't know how.
Well, on that note, I'm Dave Baker.
And I'm Spandrew Spice.
This has been Deep Cuts. If you'd like to find me on the internet, you can do so at heydavebaker.com, where you can find all of my books. And you can also find Mary Tyler Moorhawk wherever books are sold. Spandrew, where can people find you on the internet?
If you want to pay respects to the dear beloved Papa Pricey, you can get his book by going to dapricerights.com, where you can get Deadbolt AI Private Eye, a comic about a robot in the future solving crimes. You can follow us on social media by going to Facebook and searching Deep Cuts Podcast. You can join the Deep Cuts Podcast Facebook group, where we talk about the show and make memes. You can join our Discord server, bit.ly.com/deepcutsdiscord, where we talk about the show, make memes, play games, and other cool stuff. You can follow us on Instagram at DeepCutsPod. You can follow us on TikTok at Mystery Treehouse. And you can follow me on TikTok at Deadboy where I make cool videos about random stuff. Recently, I made a video about how passionate Europeans are about football, as there is a big football tournament going on in Europe right now. And even though the video was totally complimentary and not mean or critical at all, it was actually like a positive thing. A lot of Europeans were very mad for some reason. Deep Cuts is a production by Boy Genius Media. If you'd like to find this show and others like it, please visit boygeniusmedia.com or deepcutspod.com.
If you want to join in on post-episode discussions, please join the Deep Cuts Podcast Facebook group. Finally, subscribe to our YouTube channel for additional video content.